We know an immense amount about these two towns at the cost of a great number of lives.
That's right. I mean, the disaster happened. It was the disaster that preserved the cities, and the disaster killed a lot of the inhabitants, and that's something that we have to face. And the exhibition, after all, is about the people. So we can't be that surprised when at the end of the exhibition, quite rightly, we see the people whose houses we've been walking through.
So, I mean, we've got here two examples of two casts of bodies. One is from Pompeii, and this is from Herculaneum, this lady. Is
Well, that
right?
lady is actually from a suburb of Pompeii called Oplontis.
Right.
From Herculaneum, you don't get the casts because, for one thing, immediately the bodies were desiccated by the intense heat, so their flesh wasn't kind of plump enough, if you like.
I see.
These people were cooked.
I have to say, I mean, it's very hard looking at these casts because we know that they were real people. When they were excavating through the ash, they would have come across a void and they wouldn't have quite known what that void represented, but someone came up with the idea of filling it with plaster of Paris.
That's
and
right.
then you create the absence.
Yes.
And you can see, in this case, it's obviously a young child, possibly a boy of, what, 3 or 4 or something?
Yes, I think so.
Here, though, this is actually a resin cast,
Absolutely.
which contains the bones of this woman who was fleeing and struck down.
That's right. This lady, she is cast in resin, and this creates a rather unsettling image. You can see the bones of the woman through the cast. You can see quite clearly her teeth. You can see her skull. You can see the bones of her hands. And this was an intentional attempt to show that, because very often the bones, when you look at the normal plaster class, should we call them, they obscure the bones. So it's not always possible to have a perfect cast, but when you have something like him, where you can actually see the wrinkles on the tunic that he's wearing. This is something that is quite extraordinary. The most famous cast isn't even a person at all. It's a dog. Archaeologists were excavating a house in Pompeii and they discovered the mosaic of a dog, a guard dog with his chain and lead. And then when they were excavating at the entrance to the house, the most amazing thing was they found a void and they poured plaster in thinking, oh well, it's going to be another body. And out came a dog that was contorted in the agony of its death, those last moments. And there it was, a guard dog with its collar still in place. Is it the guard dog shown in the mosaic? We'll never know.
It's essential to remember that this is the dark truth at the core of this entire story that we have in this show.
Yes.
But at the same time, how do you account for the fact that this, perhaps more than the beautiful jewellery, the wonderful works of art, is what's captivated people's imagination?
I think because it's the people. It shows real Romans. You know, they read about the Romans, they see the lamps that the Romans used and the lovely paintings and the lovely mosaics, but here we've actually got the Romans that used them. It's the humanity, it's the reality of the casts. You know, these are people at the moment of their death. And I think that's what's so touching.